I guess we're live.
We live?
Welcome everyone to the Felix Comic Art Podcast live, our live edition. This is episode
We
2.
live?
Welcome everyone to the Felix Comic Art
live?
Podcast. Everyone live. Okay, hang on a second. We got a little feedback there. Episode
We
2.
live?
Welcome everyone to
We
the Felix Comic
We
Art
live?
Podcast. Everyone live. Whose thing do we have on? Okay, a little feedback. Look how we took care of that. Always going to be a little glitch to start these things. That's kind of our brand at this point, Trad. But welcome again to the Felix Comic Art Podcast Live, episode 2 with Trad Moore, with a focus on Trad's just released, just completed Doctor Strange Fall Sunrise. And we will be looking at issue number 1. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined in. Let's see who's in the house. We've got 247 Comics, Justin S., Victor Bracamontes, Aaron Safer Rosenthal, Dino Mauricio, Mark V, Cuban Ghost, DC Heavy Metal, Doug Pfluger, Max Machado, Virginia Trail Guide, Scott Wingo, Tunes, Christopher Lopez, Anderson Carmen, Morgan Hatfield, Brian P., Ron Lim, Jessica, Jordan Ellerman, Mike Cushion, Jackson Pollock.
Jackson Pollock.
Jackson Pollock.
We got him.
Bootlegging is a Habit. Grant Riddle. Paolo Barbosa. Hope I got everyone. John McClanahan. Excuse me. Yo Curry. Kevin Godfrey. VB. Chris Roulette. Samantha Drive. Big room tonight, Trad, just for you. David Kwok.
Where are you seeing all these? I'm sorry to interrupt.
If you look on your screen to the right of the screen, you should be able to see some comments. Just click on comments.
Oh, I see them. Okay, I was looking at the private chat section and I was like, yo, it's dead in here. What's happening?
Comic Art Channel, Justin Harper, Timothy Guerrero, Jersey Lambo, Jordan Wano, Mark Bryn, Bill Johnson. We have some collector royalty here. Sebastian. Did I say Victor Bracamontes? I'll say it again. Victor's a great guy. Raj Patel. And I think that's it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I also want to thank Comic Art Channel, who's in the room. Our buddy Jason K, who has his own YouTube channel called, fittingly enough, Comic Art Channel. Check it out. Make sure you subscribe. Thanks so much, Jason, for producing tonight's show for us. And it's a special show. It's a special show because we have a special guest, Trad Moore. Trad, we did this for Comic Art Live, Bill Cox's online show, 3 years ago in 2020.
Been a minute.
Have you gotten a haircut since then?
No, I have not gotten a haircut since 1460, I believe was the exact date. But no, I think it has been since 2018.
It was impressive in 2020.
What's up?
It was impressive in 2020. It's even more impressive now.
Oh, yeah. Got to get those braids going.
So in our talk back in 2020, you hinted at your upcoming project, the follow-up to Silver Surfer Black, which was a huge smash hit, and especially with comic art collectors. I have been collecting for a while, and I've been crazy about it. You know, just like everyone else in the room, in the chat room, just like Jason K. And of course, I've tried to be a student of what's gone on, what's happened. And I will tell you, I don't think there has ever been an artist, a currently working contemporary artist, who has hit the heights you have. Just in terms of sheer popularity and the mania your art has inspired. People know, who've watched the YouTube or know me or have listened to the podcast especially, I'm a big Dark Knight Returns guy. And Frank Miller sold that Dark Knight Returns art when it was coming out. And at the time, it was considered just insane money, what they were getting for it. They were getting more than what vintage art was costing at the time, which is unheard of for new art. And I think Silver Surfer Black has reached that same level, maybe even exceeded it in the short time that it's been out.
Oh, you are very, very kind, all of you.
And,
Thank you. It really means a ton. Uh,
but going back to 2020, that's sort of where we were in 2020. And you hinted at the upcoming project, and you made a very bold statement. You said you believe that this is the best thing you will have ever done. Um,
yeah, yeah, I do. I say that with I say that with everything I put out because I feel like you got to believe that with everything you're going into. To
well, 3 years later, the project is done. It's out. Do you feel that way still?
oh yeah, oh yeah, feels like the only thing I've ever done. Feels like the first, writing and drawing it and actually, uh, I don't know. It just feels mine in a way that nothing else has up to this point. And that's not to say that I haven't, really loved and valued all my experiences and opportunities so far. And, gosh, love the people that I've worked with. But, to get to the point, this is where I wanted to be. You know what I mean? When I started just as a child doing this into my teenage years, into my adulthood, the vision was always to, you know, to be writing and drawing my own stuff, to tap into that Will Eisner spirit, the Frank Miller, Barry Windsor Smith, that type of stuff. These people who I grew up feeling like, oh, when I read this, I feel like you're talking to me. You know what I mean? And that's how I feel with this book in a way that I've never felt before. Feels like my voice, my spirit, my heart on the page. And I love it.
Well, in the newsletter I sent out today, I referred to Doctor Strange Falls Sunrise as your first official solo series. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is, and we mentioned this in the first talk. Silver Surfer Black is even, it's credited to Donny Cates, writer, Tradmore artist, but it's
Hmm.
really a Tradmore joint. Um, you know, your plot, your art, and Donnie came in afterward, Marvel style, to fill in some dialogue. But
Well,
that's
no, I mean, just a quick, like, we plotted it together. I mean, it was definitely like, it was a team effort there. I don't want to
fair
try to
enough.
take anything
Fair enough.
from Donnie there,
Okay,
but
okay. But it is sort of it's still you know a graduating step from what you've done before in terms of
absolutely, yeah, for
your
sure.
input into it. You also did a short story for Amazing Spider-Man 850,
Hmm.
which was your writing, your art. That's 100% trad, but
Yep.
it is a it's a short. Um,
Hmm.
to go from that to this is just quite ambitious. But
Yeah,
you,
yeah. It
you've
was,
had this you've had this idea, this story, this Doctor Strange story in your head. You've sort of been thinking about it, ruminating on it for a while.
it's interesting. Yeah, it's been there for a long time, but it wasn't. It's interesting that Doctor Strange was kind of the last piece of the puzzle. It was ideas, they're kind of popping into your head and you don't know how they fit together. You don't even know if it's going to be in the same narrative. And yeah, I just had some stuff brewing in there for years. Um, and the idea of making Doctor Strange, our avatar character, our main character here that we see this world through, that was the moment that I was like, oh, okay, I think I can pull a lot of these ideas together that I've been sitting on for years. So yeah, it wasn't that I long dreamt of working on Doctor Strange. It was I long dreamt of telling a fantasy story where I could wrestle with a lot of my philosophical and theological angst and pain and feelings of loss and whatnot. And I never would have thought that Strange could be like a good, like I said, I don't want to say cipher, but a good character to lead us through that world. So, um,
When I
yeah.
was knowing, sort of following your career, uh, for so long, and of course being a fan and knowing you, I had a lot of expectations for Strange, and
Mhm.
um, reading that first issue really struck me that this is 100% authentic expression in comics by Trad, more than anything else he's done before. And of course, that's really stating the obvious, but um, it just everyone was blown away by Silver Surfer Black because it was like nothing they'd ever seen before. But in some ways, Silver Surfer Black is like kindergarten compared to Strange. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I, I I was just blown away. Like
Thank you.
this is for- not just the art, but also the level of the writing really caught me by surprise.
Mm.
Just how clearly thoughtful and uh, you had a lot to say. You're definitely trying to say a lot. I mean, do you feel that it was a successful expression in the end? You mentioned that like you wanted to deal with the theology and the philosophical
Yeah.
ideas that you've had. Did you feel like you were able to get it out in the end?
I do. I think it was, I wasn't looking to find answers. I wasn't looking to find any sort of comfort. You know what I mean? I just wanted to try to lay out a full thought, uninterrupted, whatever that means, or it's sometimes it's hard to express certain pains or just feelings in general, whatever they are, verbally, because you kind of don't want to be maybe overbearing. You don't want to talk too much. You don't want to, or I'm saying me, like that's some of the stuff that I don't want to bring anyone down or whatever, but in the kind of like safe space of creativity, whatever that is to you, whether it's music or comics or whatever. Um, you can just really lay it all out there, the highs, the lows, you just really try some stuff. And when you have the opportunity to really just take the reins and do it, I just thought, why on earth would I not make every page, every panel, every line of dialogue exactly what I want it to be? Why would I waste my time doing anything else? This is life. This is every day. You're going in and you're spending hours on this thing. So yeah, going into this one, I was like, I've got a lot of I've got a lot of room here. I've got a lot of space. And if it fails, who knows if I'll ever get it again. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna swing every single time, whatever that means in that moment. Um, and so yeah, and I think that something that was said to me that I took as success. That's what I was shooting for. Because I try to stay away from a lot of uh, public conversation about stuff. Uh, I just like the distance from it myself, and I also think that sometimes it's nice for an audience um, to not, to be able to come to their own conclusions about things. And I don't want to pollute their interpretation of things. Um, but I remember I was sharing the issues with my mom, and she said, when I read these, uh, I have to read them alone, um, and I have to set up my private time to do it. And she said, because when I read them, I feel like we're talking, and she said it, and it makes me cry. Um, and she was like, but I don't know if I understand everything. And I was like, what you just said to me, like that's more important to me than what anyone else could say. That's what you want out of art. That the conversation, that type of stuff. That sometimes it's hard to just like walk into a room and bare your soul. But then if you're able, like I said, to do it in that safe space and share it with someone else, um, it's a special thing. So to me, that was my sign of success. More than more than anything else.
I think this is going to be one of those things that'll be just studied for as long as people care about comics, really, and just because you put so much of yourself, your heart and your soul into this thing. I mean, clearly, this was not for the paycheck, you know.
No.
But I'm curious because at this point it's pretty, I guess, almost a famous story that when Marvel first saw what you turned in for Silver Surfer Black, they couldn't wrap their heads around it. They didn't know what the heck this was, and
Yeah.
there was some pushback. Um, and I just refer to Silver Surfer Black as kindergarten compared to Strange. How did they react to Strange? When you were showing them, or at this point, did they just give you carte blanche?
Yeah, I think that the Silver Surfer Black stuff definitely worked in my benefit for sure. You know what I mean? To have a little bit of misgivings on their or a little bit of nerves on their side on the front end, and to see that it worked. You know what I mean? And that the vision came together. Um, I think it makes sense to in some way. You know what I mean? Like to build trust with some of these groups. You kind of gotta put out a thing that is artistically validating to you, that you don't shy away from anything, but they can also look at and go like, oh, it worked. People liked so I was given a lot of rope here. Yeah. So that's why I was saying, I was like, who knows how this will come together, what'll happen from here. And that's why I was, I didn't
Well,
have multiple gears. There was just one, and it was gear 40. You know what I mean? I was just like, nope, I'm going. Like, you gave me the rope, I'm running with it.
and to their credit, they put it out, they published it, and I have to say kudos and thank you because this is unlike anything that's ever come out from Marvel before, and they put it out. So thanks Marvel. We have to give them again, give them credit where credit is due.
Oh
So
yeah.
we're everyone's here because they want to see the art. So we're gonna do a
Yeah.
little art show, like every page of the book. Everyone's gonna get a chance to see it. You're gonna get to hear, uh, Trad's process as he was creating each page. And to me, I am the hype guy, but
Yeah.
hopefully by now everyone sort of knows that if I don't believe it, if I don't truly feel it, I wouldn't say it. And
Mhm.
that's why I rep the guys that I do rep. And in this case, I mean, each page on its own is a masterpiece and is a master class in in something that we have never seen before from from anyone. And it's a master class in trad storytelling. So be ready. But before we do that, okay, um, we you brought me on as your art rep.
Mhm.
You already knew I was a huge fan and collector of your work, and I think it was a natural fit.
Yeah, we
Um,
knew each other for years
yeah,
we
I think
before we teamed up.
I think we were able to to do a lot um, in introducing your work to broader collecting audience,
Mhm.
and it sort of built up to Silver Surfer Black, where then it just went, just rocket, and it has, and it's still going. And
Dang.
at that sort of peak, trad mania, you made the decision. I'm good. I don't really feel like selling any more art,
Mhm.
and I didn't. I don't pressure guys. If you want to keep your art, by all means, keep it. And I know how personal, your work is to you, how much you put of yourself into this art, and you've already sold so much of it. So I'm not only am I good with it, by all means, keep it. And so for 3 years, you have been producing work, and we've shared some of it online. And excuse me, and you've done Doctor Strange.
Hmm.
Um, of course, when they announced Doctor Strange, it was at San Diego last year, and I was
Hmm.
at San. And immediately, people came to my booth and wanted to know about Doctor Strange, and we even got an insane offer for the complete issue.
Hmm.
Uh, and I don't really bother you with any of that because you already stated that you don't want to sell any of the art. But then a few months later, I saw you in New York. For at New York Comic Con, we came to visit you and Ian Bertram at the studio, and I let you know, this is what's been going on, and I think you started thinking about it then, but
Hmm.
you also said you didn't want to sell it complete. If you were to sell it, you wanted to break it up. So I guess the question is, what led you from this position where I don't feel like selling art, I'm going to keep it, to
Hmm.
now letting this issue go.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I'll never feel like entirely good about. Um, but I think the thing that had me thinking about it is like, the stuff that I keep, I want to keep. You know what I mean? My art is really journalistic for me, and I guess uh, the way our minds work, you know what I mean? There's so much shit in our head like all the time, but sometimes you can't access it until you see a letter that someone wrote you, or until you smell a perfume, until you know what I mean, see that tree that you grew up climbing, you know what I mean? And art is that for me, my own art. I spend so much time with it that like it's my journal. And so that's why sometimes it's hard for me to let go of these things, because it I know that it means something special and unique to the buyer, or to the reader, to anybody else. But whatever it means to me might have nothing to do with what's on the page. You know what I mean? It could be this drawing that I remember drawing after a tough day, or after losing someone, or this or that. So that's the part where I wanted to get more particular about hanging on to stuff, because I don't know, just you want to be able to have your memories, you know what I mean? Um, so yes, that's something that, and I'm a private person, and as I said, when it comes to writing this stuff, it's sometimes just hard to share myself, you know what I mean? And but I in my art, that's where I feel comfortable. But I don't feel comfortable, but that is the most comfortable place, or it's the starting point to where I can like build the verbiage to be able to share with people. So that's why I like keeping a lot of it. But the thing is, I have a number of friends who are teachers now. I have nieces. I have a niece and two nephews, and like seeing the effect that work can have on people as a learning tool, and as something that is like exciting, and like going to museums and whatnot, and kind of like knowing how much it means to me to be able to, you know, go to these museums across the world and see artwork, and as an educational tool, and also just as you know things that move you emotionally. I don't want to completely keep that from people either, you know what I mean? So I think there's never going to be a comfortable uh interaction there. I think it'll always feel like a little, I don't want to say shit, it'll feel a little uncomfortable. But
I'll tell you. Um, give you the lay of the land. Um, and when we sell a complete issue, obviously one person gets to keep it. It is very cool that the work is kept together, and I think there is value in that.
yeah.
In breaking up the issue, we give more people a chance to own it. But in
Yes.
the end, there's only 30 pages or however many pieces, right?
Yep.
And there's only that many people who are going to be able to have a
Hmm.
piece. Um, and this is not inexpensive,
Hmm.
especially after what's happened. with Silver Surfer Black, which individual pages have been trading for just unbelievable sums. And I guess I will sort of put just I don't know necessarily if this puts anyone's mind to ease. Um, these pages are not going to be cheap, but they're not going to be Silver Surfer Black level either. So I think and I'll work with everyone. Time payments, anything people need, and I think they'll be, you know, they should be attainable for art collectors. Um,
Mm.
but the people who have gotten your art, and people in the chat can confirm this, really hang on to it. And then that's why, for example, Silver Surfer Black prices for the few pages that have traded have been so high, because there's such little supply. People just will not let them go. And even beyond Silver Surfer Black, at this point, everyone, to have an original trad in their collection is just, they treat it like a treasure. It's something very special. So I think that will continue with Silver Surfer. With Doctor Strange, False
I'm
Sunrise.
glad to hear that. Yeah, yeah.
Um, Jason, our producer, why don't we switch to the art, and we'll get the art show going.
Let's do it.
Oh, by the way, Jason, and everyone in the chat, if you have any questions, go ahead and include that in the chat. I can't follow it so well, but Jason's going to post any questions you have.
I was about to say, I already saw a bunch of stuff in there that I wanted to respond to, and I haven't yet, but I've seen some friends in here say hello. And
Okay, cool.
hello,
I mean,
friends.
yeah. If you see anything, Trad, feel free as well.
Okay, I didn't know if I was allowed to
Of course.
comment to you fine people, but
So,
here we go.
For the audience, this is the first time you're seeing the raw scans of the original art. Is during our talk today. I also have the original art in hand, so you can see how it compares. But in any case, this is the cover, and I love the Marvel trade dress you added. It's for a kid, that's beautiful. What why did you do that design? Why did you include the Marvel banner, Marvel Comics Group banner?
I always like learning something from drawing. You know what I mean? Whatever that may be, and something that you'll see me do a lot in this series that I was trying to understand better was just like typography and hand lettering of like logos and stuff. And I think that some of them that I did are more successful than others, but it was just something that, like, there's just something special about, it's not like a nostalgia thing. It's just purely like, I have eyes, I can see, and I can look at shit that's hand done and go like, wow, that is awesome. You know what I mean? So it was like going through a lot of comics and just seeing what spoke to me. And, always just the hand drawn title pages and whatnot. I knew that was going to be something that was going to be like a piece of this book. One of my kind of like Bibles that I always had by my desk on this was Kirby's The Demon. And it's like just digging into, I mean, there's some shit that I just ripped like right from that, just Mike Royer, I guess, inking and lettering, that stuff. It's just so fun. It's so exuberant. You know what I mean? I thought it would be interesting to be telling, kind of like at times, somber or quiet narrative, but then to have like big, compelling comic aesthetics at the same, like, I think sometimes when people have like a vision, they think that it can only be one thing. But I like the idea of mashing up a lot of stuff that maybe you wouldn't think works together. And I'm like, I think it does. The Marvel Comics Group part is not hand drawn, but what I did is I scanned an old Conan comic that I have that I love, one of the old John Buscema ones, and scanned it, like printed it out, that scan after threshold, and then glued it on top. So because like you kind of want the texture of failure, of the failure of printing, the failure of the human hand. Like if everything is too perfect, uh, people don't care, or I don't care. You know what I
Well,
mean? If something is too pristine or too I don't know, artificial feeling, like
I
it just doesn't feel right. You know?
didn't even notice that, but I'm feeling it now, and there it is. Um,
Yeah.
well, what you may not have known is back in the day for production, that's what they would do. They would.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I actually I have an old John Romita Jr. page. I don't have like I don't collect a lot, but I have some stuff that I've just like accumulated over the years. And the lettering on that one is like pasted on. So when I saw that, and I was like, I mean, come on, John Romita Jr. is doing it. I can do it. You know, not like I can do whatever you can do, but it gave me validation. You know, I'm like, he's awesome. You know, so I want to do like that. You know, so yeah, with a lot of this, also because I was coloring the covers myself,
Yeah.
it kind of opened me up to be able to be like, oh, I can do. I don't have to worry about. A lot of times when you're drawing and you know your collaborators, it's kind of like a silent conversation. Like you're putting lines on the page, and those lines are a lot of times to describe something to the person you're working with. Um, so you might not do certain difficult things because you're like, I don't know if they're going to understand what I'm doing, or maybe this is more effort than it's worth. But with this one, I have the actual duotone, on there. I have, the letter box is drawn in pencil just because I was like, why not? I have stuff pasted on there. So it really, I don't know. Like I said, with this book, I was just like, I'm throwing everything. That I can try
This
at
sort of
this.
ties into a question from the audience, and Jason, if you can hear me again, feel free to, even in the middle of our talking, just post up questions. We'll answer the ones we can. But in the chat, Cuban Ghost asks, "Can Trad cover some of his can Trad cover some of his biggest art influences?"
Mm. Oh gosh, I'll probably be talking about them like as I go,
Okay.
because they're just like
You
it's
know,
nonstop. But
what's funny, Trad, is in your previous work. When I started following you, you can sort of see the influence, whether it's manga or video games.
yep,
In the work, but as we go along, becomes less and less obvious. And
yep.
now in Doctor Strange, this is like holy trad, or at least I don't really see the comics roots, but it'll be interesting to hear you
Well,
talk.
yeah, because I mean, a lot of what I'm pulling from on this, and like I was saying, kind of like mashing up things that don't necessarily feel like they should go together. So I was pulling from a lot of old 1700s, 1800s painters who I love. So one of the main artistic influences on the whole series that was kind of like the foundation for the look of the book for me, or for the feel that I wanted to go to, is a guy called Caspar David Friedrich,
Hmm.
and he just would do these beautiful somber landscapes, and would put like tiny figures in there. There would often be, you know, he was famous for being incredible at drawing ruins and these like mangled, very sad looking trees. Really stands out in his work. Um, so yeah, when I was first kind of like developing the look of the book, I was just looking at a bunch of Friedrich's paintings and seeing what it would look like if I did some like modern pop color on there. Like basically, like what if I took a Friedrich painting, but I put like King Arthur from Sword in the Stone, Disney Sword in the Stone, like put something that colorful and vibrant on this somber looking thing, and I thought, man, that's fucking cool. You know what I mean? And so that was those were two of the big inspirations, uh, just right off the bat that I was, and then also we'll get into a bunch of this stuff. Um,
Jason, page one.
let's see this. Anderson, what's up? Anderson is an artist as well, who I met when Anderson was a student, and I knew right when I met him and saw his work, I was like, oh, Anderson's the real deal. And he is, and now he's a published artist. So
So his question is, how much did you write out the pages as opposed to figuring out in the art? I guess the question really is, how tightly was this thing scripted before you started drawing?
The interesting thing is that when you're, I didn't want to look up any direction. I just wanted to figure it out myself. So it would kind of, I would almost like draw out the plot, I drew, like a almost a map, you know what I mean, of like, okay, where does Doctor Strange go? Let me break this up visually in issues. And when I was figuring out the like cosmology of the world, you know what I mean, I was drawing out how these things worked, but I think it's important to like keep those kind of like secret, because it, I don't know, it just it's more fun to let people experience the world as Strange does. Um, but yeah, when it comes to writing, they were, to answer your question, it was fully scripted. You know what I mean? Because frankly, I just like writing. You know what I mean?
How did you describe? What was page one? How did you describe this page?
Um, I think it was, something, you know, a rising sun paints the sky crimson. I think that was something like that. You know what I mean?
What I love is, I mean, again, this is something we've never seen before. There are no characters or anything familiar about this at all, and this instantly sort of plants the flag in the reader's head. Okay, we are in alien territory here. Um,
Yeah, and
but
also like with this one, I wanted to. I love a good kind of like cold open, and I love slowing things down a little bit. You know what I mean? Like your control of pacing and time is really your biggest uh tool. You know what I mean? As a count, like I want the one of the biggest, like I want the book to almost feel like it's breathing. You know what I mean? Where it's like we can have these really slow parts, and that'll make the frenetic parts more powerful. And to kind of like have a splash page and then a 2-panel page, 4-panel, 6-panel, and then it eventually gets to the point where it's like a damn 20-panel page. I feel like they all make each other alive, in a way. So yeah, with this one, I really wanted to like I want to let people know this is what you're getting into. You know what I mean? No confusion.
next page, Jason.
Also, Eric
This
asks,
question, Trad, how in depth do you go as far as rough drafts, thumbnails, or underdrawings before the final line?
I've gotten to the point now. I didn't always do this, but I enjoy doing it. But basically, like I will do kind of like pretty good thumbnails, or not pretty good, as in like I try to get the thumbnail to the point that it's like nice and legible, and then what I'll do, I'll blow that thumbnail up to size on my computer screen. And this is probably, I'm sure everyone who uses computers is like, don't do that, you'll break it. But no, I just use my damn computer screen as a light box, and I just put my paper right up on the thumbnail. That way, you know, um, I mean, it's the same thing as like, again, pulling from old masters. It's like, when you see those big 10-foot tall sculptures, they didn't start as 10-foot tall sculptures. The sculptor would make a 2-inch tall version of this thing, and then you would grow from there. So that same concept. What I used to do longer ago, which just took me forever, um, was that an old method is you print something out and you cover the backside with graphite, and then you lay that on top of your paper, and you trace over the lines you've already drawn, and it presses it down, and then you would ink on that. But yeah, if you wonder why I only put out one book every 3 years, that's because I do stuff like that. But yeah, so yeah, I do at this point pretty thorough thumbnails, blow up the thumbnails, put the line work on paper, ink directly on that, erase the lines
And I just
afterwards.
want to let the audience know that the single pages are 11 by 17, but these double page splashes aren't 22 by 17, which is kind of twice the
Yeah.
size. And these things are huge. They're 19 by 24. You know,
Yeah,
in
they're
the
big.
parlance of Felix Calmar, we call it wall power. So these are like true wall power. Next page, Jason. And this, I guess, is like a title splash almost.
Yeah, that was like, I knew, again, talking about like stuff that I just love about various older comics that I don't see as much anymore is the chapter breaks. I like being able I like breaking up the narrative in that way, just again because part of my uh stuff that I wanted to get into here was learning how to how to do the design of lettering and whatnot. And it's hard. Graphic designers, props, like hand drawing that stuff and trying to figure out like what makes what makes a G and not a C, like what little subtle things you got to figure out to make these letters read like we all know they're supposed to, is surprisingly challenging. So that was something that I really enjoyed doing here, and something also that I love that I would like to see more of, that I played with a lot on this, is white space. Playing with the actual design of the page and not having to fill everything out to the proper borders or whatever. Like that's part of the art. You know what I mean? Like Frank Miller's masterful at that, and people know that. But it's like if you look at comics, just basically there was a big change in the way a lot of mainstream comics were done in the 2000s. Because it was exhilarating then when Brian Hitch and some of these people were coming in doing these like super cinematic uh, stories, and it was like, whoa, I've never seen anything like this. But when you go back before that, the graphic design of the page was people had a lot of fun with that stuff of playing with the gutters and whatnot. So right off the bat, I knew that with this, I also wanted to play with gutter spaces, and the image doesn't have to take up the whole page. You don't, if you want it to just be a sliver of the page, if that has meaning, if you can explain it, you know what I mean? If you can think why it works, then do it. Because it's similar to the setup of the title pages in what you call it, famous Daredevil, Born Again. Yeah, if you look at any of those, when it opens up and it's like apocalypse, and he's laying on the bed or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Similar to that.
Next page, Jason. Will Knapp asks, do you ever scrap a take of a page and have to go at it again? Or do you usually nail it in one after finding thumbnails you're happy with?
It's all of the decisions are in that thumbnailing phase, and all the big decisions. I try not to scrap a page. I've done it before, but that's usually just me being kind of I don't know, kind of childish about it, getting mad and go, throwing it out. But I can't think of the last time I've done that professionally. Like I don't think I've ever done that in my professional career. But
He got a comment on. I'll just read it. It's from Stuart Henderson, and this one stuck out to me. I found this book reminiscent of What Dreams May Come, a Robin Williams movie. Have you seen that? It was by a New Zealand director, Vincent Ward, 30 years ago.
I know what it is, but I never saw that one.
But that's actually a good call.
Yep.
Now that Stuart mentions it, I can see there is a similar vibe. It's very 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 dreamy.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the someone in there said something looked like a Renaissance figure. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of I really wanted to get that vibe across. There's something just special. Everyone knows it, that's a special time in art. But yeah, something about the way they were doing the flowing cloth, something about just like the drama of those old paintings. Yeah, I was trying to tap into the spirit of that, and in a lot of these, there were definitely some stuff where I just for some of the textures, just as like shout outs to the stuff that I was looking at. I would like scan you know, scan a Da Vinci book or whatever and use a texture as like a background color or something. So
Well,
yeah.
let's see how many panels are in this on this page. This is because this is kind of a unique panel layout. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Mhm.
10, 11, 12. Not your typical 12 panel layout, but there you
Yeah, and
go.
this is something too where it's like, this is where it benefits, when you're writing and drawing your own thing. The reason there's that like stacking or the that like it's not stacking, that kind of like lots of little panels there is, it's he's thinking and speaking and being spoken to at the same time, and they're cutting each other off. So, you know, he's trying to think or he's trying to speak, and then his thought will lay over the dialogue. And then so this whole thing was meant to be just this kind of like I can't get my head together, you know. So yeah, there's a lot of that in there where it's like it would be this was definitely one where it was more I knew the idea of what I wanted it to be, but I more drew it out than scripted afterwards. You know what I mean? There's a lot of push and pull there between what comes first or what comes afterwards.
Next page, Jason. Bill Johnson has a question. Where did the design of the white tiger come from?
That was just something that I love. I don't have my tiger pillow on me right now, but I just love tigers. I always have. I feel like everybody likes tigers, but I like them more than you. That's just what it is. So yeah, if I have an opportunity to draw a creature, there's a good chance they're going to be either tiger or dog looking because I just love tigers and dogs. And because I knew that a character coming up later in the series was going to be my dog character. Uh, didn't want to play my hand too soon, so
So in
tiger
this
deer dog later.
on this page, you yeah, incorporate this cool wash.
Yeah, there's a wash there, and then up above when I was doing the flashback stuff, I was using just a pen and Sharpie, or not Sharpie, but marker, because I wanted to give the flashbacks a different look that wasn't contingent on the colorist. You know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes, and this was before I knew that Heather was going to be coloring it. Who Heather's incredible, and I think she's just one of the best colorists in the business. But so when I knew for sure she was coloring it, I could make decisions in different ways because we could talk about it. I could be like, call her and just be like, "Yo, I'm doing this thing. This is where my mind's at," and she'd be like, "Oh, cool." But here, like I said, I didn't know, and I didn't want people like fucking throwing filters all over my work. You know what I mean? So I was like, no, 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 I'll take care of the flashback aspect. You stay over there. Um, so yeah, it was also this was a weird thing too. I was really pumped about doing this art, this series, and I was like, I was like, oh, I got to make this the best thing I've ever done, and blah blah blah. And then I had like bad wrist problems, like basically right after doing that the big landscape page, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to learn to draw with my right hand, and this book isn't gonna be what I want it to be. Um, so yeah, when I switched to that, it was almost out of resignation, out of out of some little depressed mode of like, I better find out another way to draw because my wrist is ruined. But as it turns out, physical therapy. God bless you. Good
And
stuff.
also, I guess I'll just tell people, you heard it from Trad. He's had some health stuff, and he has to be very careful when and how he draws. So I've
Mhm.
been getting all these emails and inquiries because your appearance at Heroes has been announced, and people want to know, are you going to be sketching? And I have to tell them, it just, yeah, Trad
I'm
doesn't.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna. It's one of those things. Well, here's my love it or hate it. Here's my thought. When I go to those shows, I want to be present in conversation, and that is the most important thing to me. It's like I have people who I've met on the other side of the table that I keep in touch with to this day, and I've just had so many great experiences and met so many great people, and I don't think you can get those experiences if you're focusing more on drawing than you are on being there with humans. You know what I mean? So it came a time where it was like I was having trouble trying to find that middle ground, you know, and I was like, I don't think I can find the middle ground. So I'm just gonna put my effort into what I think is more important, which is chilling and talking with people, and that is special to me. You know what I mean? So that's my thought behind it. I'll sign anything. You know what I mean? If some 6-year-old comes up and is like, "Hey, draw me this," I'll like, hell yeah, of course I'm gonna draw something for a kid. But
You know, you saying that everyone's going to bring their 6-year-old.
no, don't be bringing over your damn friends' 6-year-olds, you weirdos. Um, uh, there was something that I saw on here that I thought was interesting. Oh yeah, do you listen to any music while you draw? I do. That's pretty much all I do when I'm drawing is listen to music. Um, it doesn't have to be, tonally similar to what I'm drawing, but oftentimes it turns out that way. I'm the kind of weirdo who can pop a song on repeat for 3 days at a time and be happy. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, it's pretty much all music all the time. Um, yeah, so that's usually what's going on while I'm drawing these. Every now and then I'll be able to listen to a book or some audio book, but I prefer to read uh, on
All right.
paper rather than be read to.
Next page, Jason.
Trad, did you do some?
TAMD.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, Trad, did you do separate design sketches for the characters in Fall Sunrise, or did you figure it out as you drew them on the page?
For characters that I know that are important to the narrative, you know what I mean, that I'm going to be repeating a lot, I draw them separately. So the big characters in this story, there's multiple design sketches of Strange. I needed to make sure that I knew what he's going to look like from every angle, and I, like I said, I was pulling from a lot of animation influences, and so I was really trying to get. And again, at the beginning, I didn't know who was going to be coloring it, so that's why it was important to me to, design the characters, color the characters, draw the covers, color the covers. You know what I mean? To basically be like the art direction. This is what we're building from. So yeah, if they're not like a recurring character, I make them up on the page. I try to the best of my ability to make every character look cool enough to where they could be the title character. That's the goal. But yeah, no, like I didn't do like a design of this, tiger creature. I just was like, do it.
This tiny panel inset of the Sanctum Sanctorum is just
Yeah.
insane. Yeah, it's insane. And Jay Nunya has a question, which is, does Trad do acid? And I guess that's the question that comes to mind after you see something like this, a page like this.
I will say that's a question that has followed me most of my life, and I can just say that drugs are not have never been an influence much. I mean, like I guess everything influences you, like, but it's not one of those things where it's like I do any substances to feel inspired. You know what I mean? Anytime I do any of those fun things, it is purely for fun and recreation with friends. But yeah, no, I was stark sober. I was a sober boy for a long time in my life. I didn't start. I was one of the rare few who I guess didn't start drinking until I legally could.
Well, just so you know, JJ Ryan says I would do acid with Tread any day.
Good to know. Good to know.
Next page, Jason. So there's another question from Jay. I guess he got his acid question answered, so he also wants to know: you reading any comics right now?
Yeah, like I don't. I kind of just pick stuff up, arbitrarily. So like a lot of times the stuff that I'm reading, might not be something that like came out recently or whatever. But yeah, no, I went to a shop that had some like old comics, and I picked up. I've always loved these old when they put out what's it called one of the most Lone Wolf and Cub. When they put out Lone Wolf and Cub in the States for the first time, they had Frank Miller and Lynn Varley did a bunch of the covers, and then like following that, Bill Sienkiewicz did a bunch of the covers, and they're awesome. And I've always had like whatever JPEG saved on my computer and phone and whatnot to look at them, but I found them in a store. So I ended up buying a bunch of those old issues, and I've never read Lone Wolf and Cub, so I'm starting that for the first time. That's been cool.
Yeah, it's Cub, 28 volumes, and just a complete story. Absolutely one of the best comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are very much not in the. I think they were Dark Horse. To who asked that, but I can't remember.
It was actually the first comics that.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, but Dark Horse got the rights, and they've since repackaged them, and you get the 20. So it's 28 volumes through Dark Horse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Two other things that I read, not in the kind of stuff that I do, but if you're into like indie stuff, there's a book called Sabrina by a guy named Nick Dernasso, I believe. Very good. Check that out. And then there's an upcoming book called Eden 2 by a friend named Kenny Roten, and that shit is real good. That's coming out later this year. So, yeah, those are really good.
We're going to keep going through these pages, Trad. If there's anything you point out or talk about, feel free. Otherwise, we're going to go to this next page because this is just a wild page. And I'm going to talk about a writer named Oliver Saba, who is a comics reviewer, a commentator, pundit, and he used to write for several outlets. And whenever I see his byline, I knew it was an instant read. I really enjoyed this guy's writing. And now he's has a Patreon where you can read his stuff. And he did a 3-essay series breaking down just the first issue of Doctor Strange, Fall Sunrise. Very impressive stuff. I encourage everyone to read it because, look, let's face it, this is a challenging work, and I think readers can be intimidated by it. But if you read Oliver's review and his sort of critique and examination, I think you'll start to understand it. And this page, Oliver singles out. So anyway, I provided the links on social media. When I send out the drop announcement, I'll include the links in the email. Do read it. It deserves to be read. Oliver's just guy's got great taste. I mean, he did one of these for Step by Bloody Step 2. So anyway,
great. Oliver is amazing. I've done I think some of my favorite interviews that I've done, and there's only been a few, were with Oliver, and it was like I remember when I was working on the New World, I was really reclusive at that point, but I was like I will do interviews with two people. It's either going to be Oliver or it's going to be Haas from Panel by Panel, if that's still going. Who, I don't know if he's still doing that stuff because now he's like big time letterer. But yeah, if you look up Strip Panel Naked and whatnot, if you want to learn shit about comics, like he'll show you what's up. So yeah, amazing work to both of them.
Next page.
There was when you design page layouts, are you planning them with larger than average? You know, I try not to get too lost in the weeds of thinking of how it's going to be printed, because I've had that bite me in every different direction. Because if you're overthinking that stuff, even if you work your ass off trying to get it just right, you know, a printing error can happen and the plates can slip and it's going to ruin your page anyway. And then sometimes you can be going like, oh, this isn't going to print right at all. It's going to look like garbage. And then it prints and you're like, oh my God, that is somehow you got every scale on that dragon. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm going to draw whatever the hell I'm going to draw on the page and let fate decide. I ain't got time to worry about that stuff anymore.
Here's another chapter page.
Yeah, I really like this. I think this is one of my favorite pages from this. I really, talking about doing character designs. I had done the character designs of Strange, and I drew them from profile, and I really liked the profile enough to be like, I need to feature that in the book. And it was funny because the Doctor Strange on the cover is also basically just like a redrawing of one of the original character designs that I did. And sometimes when you got when you found some fire, you might as well keep it hot. So yeah.
Awesome. Next page, Jason. Bill Johnson has a question. Is the six-armed Doctor Strange a reference to Vishnu, the Hindu god?
No, not directly, but I think there's so much in Doctor Strange, the kind of visual language of Strange that is very similar to a lot of Indian art and drawings of like Hindu gods and goddesses and that stuff. So yeah, I think anytime you're drawing like a multi-armed character, it's impossible for your mind not to go there, because those are kind of like the historically like the kind of the coolest and best representations we have of that kind of like multi-arm concept, so yeah, I wasn't necessarily seeking it out, but I definitely I feel the connection there as well. That one's interesting.
He wants to know, what's your favorite non-comics reading?
My favorite non-comics reading, I love fantasy books. That's my like, if I have just like pure fun reading. I'm reading one right now that's awesome. It's got the best name ever. It's called The Wizard Knight. It's 2 books, The Knight and the Wizard, connected. The Wizard Knight. It's by a dude named Gene Wolfe, who I feel like is like a secret hero of the fantasy genre. He's really, really great. So that one's awesome. Check that out, The Wizard Knight.
Next page, Jason.
Yeah, and talking, a lot of the, writing and drawing this book, obviously a lot of my influence is going to come from writers, rather, and basically a lot of the stuff that I was reading building up to this was just a bunch of philosophy books. I love just having my mind twisted by these brilliant people of yesteryear, you know what I mean? And I think it's beautiful to see that like the human struggle is always the human struggle, and the context might change, based on, the technology of the era or whatever, but the woes we have go back forever, you know what I mean? Kind of like one of the foundational texts of this being the book of Ecclesiastes from the Bible, which basically opens with the guy saying, "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity," or different translation saying, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. So yeah, some of the books that led to Strange were works of Kierkegaard, Fear and Trembling. What's the Sickness Unto Death? The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. Bell Hooks's book, The Will to Change, and then you had to throw some Nietzsche in there. So the Spoke Zarathustra, and Human All Too Human. Those were kind of the a lot of the touchstones that I was trying to deal with in this book.
Right. This book really isn't about who are your comic book influences. That you're like you start off talking about. You want to examine theology and philosophy, and I guess there you go. Ben H has a question. Trad, do you see yourself sticking to sequential art long term? I could easily see you transitioning to fine art. And when you look at a page like this, I think we can all sort of understand what Ben is thinking.
I would love to. I would like comics to be my home, my safe space, my mainstay. But yeah, no, I definitely, specifically doing this book, it did kind of like open me up a lot in terms of I just can't suffer doing the same thing twice in life. I'm always trying to fucking rip my skin off and escape this horrible body. But and the way I try to get that metamorphosis is through art mostly. So doing this type of stuff and really digging into some of these like old art heroes of the past, like this one, for example. I was looking at a bunch of William Blake work, and he did some artwork of the biblical Leviathan, and this creature in the narrative. I don't know that I ever actually speak it, but it's called the Satellite Angel, and it's in reference to a Max Ernst piece, who's another favorite artist of mine. I just really love. And if you look at some William Blake stuff and some Max Ernst stuff, I think you'll see a lot of the juice I was pulling from there.
Next page, Jason.
Oh yeah, Anderson says the Job illustrations are lit. They are. Yeah, those are. Yeah, William Blake, he knew what he was doing, that guy.
Stuart Henderson asks, what was the biggest challenge when doing the book?
It was just like, I realized that this has the whatever. It was hard to find the validation within myself that I have anything of value to say. I think that was the hardest part. Like I would think that I had something that I wanted to express, and then I'd be like, "You fucking idiot! Like, who do you think you are?" You know what I mean? And then so to try to like push through that and be like, just again looking to a lot of these art heroes of mine, whether they're musicians or painters or poets or whatever, and just be like, God, how much those people have like inspired the way I think and the way that I see the world. You know what I mean? I'm so glad that they pushed through those fears, those whatever. But yeah, there were times where just like straight up I tried to I won't go into too much detail, but I was walked off the ledge multiple times from trying to quit this book. Just because there would be times where I was like, no, I can't do it. I have long hair. I'm an artist. Don't worry about me.
I'm going to point out a couple of comments here. Mike Sitchy says, please do a black and white artist edition of SSB and Doctor Strange. Michael Perlman says, there was a black and white SSB solicited and canceled. Marvel seems to be against artist editions. So I just want to clarify that point. The black and white Silver Surfer Black that was solicited and canceled was called a director's cut. It was going to include some script, but also reproduce the series in black and white. They did cancel it, but I will only say that Marvel is not against artist editions, and I'm going to leave it at that. Next page.
I think that one was also. I think that was a COVID thing that got canceled. I don't think they were just like, "Yo, fuck art." You know what I mean? I think it was like a printing thing. You know.
But there may have been other bigger plans for black and white art other than just a standard size reprint. And again, that's all I'm going to say. Next page, Jason. Brian Weaver has a question. Do you read a lot of Doctor Strange books? The new characters you created fit so easily into a Doctor Strange book.
You know, with Doctor Strange, I don't have a long-standing love of the character. I kind of fell in love with Doctor Strange in the creation of this book, you know, because my and I didn't want to overwhelm myself with too much information, so I picked up, you know, the classic. I picked up, you know, Ditko and Lee's Doctor Strange, and I read that, and I was like, oh, this is all I need, really. So that was kind of the only one that I cared too much about. But then I found P. Craig Russell's, you know, what is it that disturbs you, Doctor Strange, I think it's called, and that one's awesome. And I love that book. So those were kind of the only. But the thing is, P. Craig Russell was kind of doing in that similar to what I'm doing here, where it's like, yeah, you have Strange, but everything else is, if I'm not mistaken, everything else is new in that. It felt that way to me. So yeah, for this, it was in my pitch to Marvel. You know, I had a few hardline stances of you know what this book was going to be, and that was the thing where right off the bat I was like, this is going to have nothing to do with Marvel Universe proper. You know what I mean? This is Doctor Strange is the one character I'm going to be using. There's not going to be any. No, like this is my book, my world, my characters. You know what I mean? And thank you for letting me borrow Strange for a minute. You know, and yeah, because you know I wanted it to stand on its own legs. Like I wanted it to be like you could wipe Doctor Strange and Marvel from the face of the earth and just have this be the first introduction of this thing, and it would still work. That was my hope with it. You know what I mean? To me, that's how Weapon X feels. Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X.
This is your classic 3x3 9-panel grid page, which is, and you look, each panel is its own tab of acid, I guess, since we're on the acid theme in this chat. But what made you decide to go from, you know, the trad layout to this more formal, traditional, you know, 3x3 layout?
I think sometimes when you want to make something feel, there's a lot of ways that you can control time with panels, you know, and whether it's like overwhelming a person with them or just using one panel. A lot of times, if you keep things consistent, it can almost be like a mesmerizing effect, regardless of how many panels you're using. Like, whereas before, when I had him like getting his memory back, and there was a lot of panels, but none of them were the same size, it kind of has this like jagged feeling where you're kind of disjointed. Whereas with this, you know, it gives it that zoom in effect, you know, of going into the opening eye and whatnot. So, and it's not something that I do often. So weirdly enough, whereas like there was a time where this is, or for a lot of people, this is the standard. This almost comes across as like a more unique page compared to how I usually draw, you know. So I think this is probably the only 9-panel grid. Maybe I use some in issue 3, but yeah. And also with this one, I love in novels and whatnot where they kind of like, sleight of hand, kind of like lay out the whole plot uh, right in front of your eyes, but you don't know enough about the plot to understand the codes you're seeing, and that's what I wanted to do here, where I'm kind of laying out how this universe functions right there, um, with symbols, and I think maybe upon further reading and inspection, a person could be like, "Oh shit, that's the plot," So I thought that was a fun thing. Like, can I be vague enough to where no one's gonna know what the fuck this means when they see it the first time, but hopefully in future they go, "Oh, I get it now. I remember that scene. I remember that castle, that character. That okay, that's coin." So yeah, that's that was a fun thing to play with.
You may have addressed this already, or because I was scanning the comments because you're talking about have you read Strange before, but David M6785 says he missed the beginning, but I wonder where Steve Ditko fits into your worldview.
It was one of those things where I don't have a lot of before, like, basically starting this book and reading, Ditko and Lee's Strange. That was my intro to Ditko. Obviously, he's if you draw Marvel comics, Ditko and Kirby are in your DNA, whether you mean them to be or not. Like, just the shapes of the language of the whole universe. Galactus's helmet is Kirby. I mean, every time you draw that helmet, you're drawing Kirby designs. You know what I mean? And a lot of the Ditko stuff is the same, where it's like, yeah, you see some of the stuff you're pulling from him whether you want to or not. So it was cool going back to his work and actually reading it with, for me, completely fresh eyes, and being excited about it as if I was picking it up in the 70s, in the you know what I mean? It was a really cool experience, and I just have a ton of respect for what he did. That said, in the same way as when I did Surfer, I like to set rules that it's like, if I love something too much, I have to reject it. So with Surfer, there was a lot of choices that I was making. I was like, I'm not using Kirby dots. You know what I mean? That's too obvious. Can't do anything too iconically Kirby, because I want this to feel like my take on this character, not some like nostalgic love letter. So it was the same with Ditko, where it was like, I feel like the best compliment I can give Ditko is to be as me as I can, because that's what Ditko was doing. That's what Kirby was doing. You know what I mean? They were just these unfiltered, phenoms. You know what I mean? Just so yeah, that was I feel like that's the best compliment that I could give other artists, and hopefully the best encouragement that I can give young artists is like, you following your crazy whims is the best thing that you can do as an artist, and that's what really is gonna, I think, move people. Just be honest, on the page, and that's what I felt from Ditko. Felt very true. Felt like it was just pouring out of him.
Next page, Jason.
Out of the series, is there an issue that has? The whole series has big time significance for me. I view it all as one thing. I would say, shoot, yeah, I don't think I could pick, because there are sequences in everything that, like, when I was doing it, I was thinking like, oh, this is the sequence, from the series, and there was a lot of like, I guess, if you want to call it poetry, if you want to call it, verses, in meter, there's a lot of that stuff that I had, written kind of outside of the context of this, and I found a home for it there. So yeah, there's a lot of really, really special stuff in there. My mind keeps going to issue 3, though. I'm gonna retract that statement. There's basically the tail end of issue 3 and the opening 5 pages of issue 4 is what I wanted this book to be. So yeah, those first 5 pages of issue 4, yeah, that's what I knew that I had to get to, that I had to get off my chest. You know what I mean? To exercise certain things from me. You know what I mean?
And let's just say, because everyone in the chat room are collectors, and they're probably wondering, um,
Oh
you
shoot! Yeah, I misunderstood that question. Oh dang!
possibly 2, but 3 and 4 you are keeping. So
Yeah, I am keeping 3 and 4. Yeah, but 1 and 2, yeah, no, I mean everything in here is like literally every page, every panel. It's all like, I mean, this page was very special to me. This is very kind of pointless deep cut, but my these are, I guess, in the context of the story, these are deer. But uh, my grandma had an Italian greyhound growing up when I was growing up, named Bella, and I fucking loved Bella when she was alive. And when I was drawing these deer, there's like a lot of, I feel like I just love animals. But there's a lot of similarities in the shape of greyhounds and deer, and so I just love both those animals. So here I was trying to create these funky. I didn't want to go too surreal with them, but I thought like, well, I'll give those deer ponytail. That's kind of fantasy-ish, right? Deer don't have ponytail. So yeah. But this happened to me once. I was out walking through the woods, and I ran into a deer and its youngin, and it has charmed me forever. So a little bit of I didn't bleed from the forehead or I was not licked uh, by said deer, but I saw him.
all right. Next page, Jason. We got a question from Samantha Dryth. Do you have any favorite artists who are currently working?
Oh my gosh, so many. Some of my go-tos, just since I've been young, or since we found each other, I just think the world of James Herron. I think that of our generation, he's just as good as it gets, and I'm always inspired by the work that he does. And if you ever have a chance to meet him, he's more reclusive than I am, so you probably won't get to meet him. But if you ever do, he's an amazing person too. So yeah, I think the world. And then also, I think I saw someone mention this in the thread, but you know, one of my closest friends on this earth is also my studio mate, and also one of my favorite modern comic artists, and that's Ian Bertram. So me and Ian work back to back in a little studio together. Yeah, and we just get to see each other's work as it's coming together every day, which is awesome.
Say, when we visited you at the studio, and it was me, Yams, and Lambert, we got to see this original art for the first time in person, and we also got to see Ian's latest precious art for Precious Metal, which is the follow-up to the Eisner Award-winning Little Bird.
Yeah, it's gonna melt your dang eyes.
But Precious Metal is yet another step up from Little Bird. I'm not going to say Precious Metal makes it look like kindergarten, but it is a
significant step
and
up.
it's no surprise that the two of you are like working like literally like back to back, you know, and so you're in that same room, and I think absorbing each other's energy. So again, it just did not surprise me that you guys are creating such absolutely incredible work.
Well, thank you.
In each other's presence, I think you are pushing each other along in the most positive, iron sharpens iron way.
Yeah, it's we are very thankful for it, and we are very open with our compliments. It's very much a love fest in there. We're always just like, man, I'm so happy to know you. So yeah, it's good. And also James, wonderful writer James Tynion the Fourth is kind of the leader of the studio, who is also a wonderful person and talented creator. So it's been a really special time to be in that studio. And also I see Samantha's comment that says that you've met James, and you're right, he is ripped. Whoa, isn't that cool when people are jacked? It's just cool. Let me see. I think I saw someone else writing. I'm sorry, I'll get to some of these. I wanted to point out, yeah, these top panels here, talking about Friedrich again, panels 2 and 3. Those are direct homages to Friedrich pieces. I can't. I'm drawing a blank on their names. I'm pretty sure the third panel has like a really obvious name. I think it's called like Two Men Stare at the Moon or something. And I just put my own characters in there and put the sun there because I thought that was cool. But yeah, fun little side note. It's not, I don't think it's the Abbey and the Oakwood, but we'll get back to that. I can't remember. Stuart was asking, what were the main themes you were aiming to convey in your writing? I was talking earlier about some of the people that I was pulling from, and I also I try to be careful talking about theme with stuff, because again, I don't want to direct anyone's mind too much. But let me think on that one, and I'll get back to you.
Next page, Jason.
This is another one that I was you know, as I was mentioning before, playing with white space and gutter shapes and whatnot. This was a fun one to kind of go, you know, after doing a lot of pages of really intense detail, to do something that's you know, more graphic was cool to play around with. And sometimes, you know, it's an interesting thing. Any of y'all on here who are fellow artists, you'll know the woes of this, where it's like, you came up with the characters, you came up with this place with all these things, and somehow you just never know if your drawing of them is going to turn out good. It's like a shock every single time, and you're like, how in the hell can I not make this look the way I want it to look every single time? And it sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's torturous. But every now and then, when you get a panel that you're like, oh, I love it, that's it. And for whatever reason, that panel 3 and 4, the profile shot of Strange, and then just his little feet walking, those were ones that oh, that's exactly what I wanted. That's what I wanted. And yes, the person who said this page gives me Mignola vibes, I think I had literally bought and flipped through Hellboy in Hell the day before I drew this, and I was like, oh, you better believe I'm gonna draw some Mignola looking birds. So yeah, good catch. That's that was in fact
Next page,
the
Jason.
intent. Kevin, the tools. I am pretty much entirely a brush user. I switch back and forth depending on which one has done me right. You know, sometimes I'll get a Winsor and Newton, and it'll go really well, and then I'll use it again. And then sometimes if that brush doesn't do me right, I'll switch brands. You know, because I'll get them. But yeah, it's pretty much all brush. I always have tech pens on hand, because obviously you got to, you know, do panel borders and that type of stuff. I drew the sun every single time with a micron, because I knew that I wanted it to be unwavering, unchanging. That had thematically had to be true. It's like the sun has to be a perfect circle every single time, and I had to follow its trajectory through the through the sky or whatever. But yeah, pretty much everything you're seeing. That middle panel, I take that back immediately. That middle panel was anytime you see me do the scratchy stuff, that's also with just like that's tech pen with ink wash on top, then scratched with a razor to give it texture. So anyone who gets to see that page in person, don't be afraid to touch that panel because it feels really cool. Because yeah, that's razor scratching.
Next page, Jason.
I am going to. I realize I've been hunched forward this whole time. Can y'all still hear me if I sit back like this?
Yeah. Sit back. You're good. You're good.
I put my glasses on. Dang, I'm old. Okay, now I can see from here. Wow. What character would you like to work on? Shooting straight with you, I want to make my own stuff now. So I think, without playing my hand too soon, but this is not set in stone. But I would like for my next project to be creator owned. So we'll see. You'll find out about that character or these characters when they come. But if we're talking about, established characters, Wolverine, the X-Men. That was my long love. That's kind of like what got me into I guess superhero comics was X-Men, so I think that that's my longest love. And if I'm gonna do something, you know what I mean, that isn't owned by me from here on out, that would be high on my. There's nothing that can touch that, honestly. So yeah, we'll see. I got an X-Men story in me. I got a Wolverine story in me. Maybe we'll see it in 20 years. I don't know.
Next page, Jason.
Yeah, this was a fun one because I don't use tone very often, but I just love the look of it. Like specifically on the page, it looks there's a magic to it, that.
Can I just say I love this page. I love the layout. I love the design.
Thank you. Yeah.
Big panel in the middle is just absolutely gorgeous. This is kind of a sleeper page. It's not the
It's one
flash.
of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about this too is, like, again, talking about when you're doing it all yourself, you're making choices based on the entirety of the text, the everything, you know what I mean? So it's like, in this page, there's kind of like a poetic verse from Strange as he is thinking to himself, but he's also being spoken to by the forest. So all the lines from the forest, Genevieve speaking to him, are in the black. That's why I did those, big black trees, and then all of Strange's thoughts are in the white. And I thought it was an interesting way to. It's kind of overwhelming, but it kind of gives readers almost like freedom in the page, where it's like you can read all of Strange's stuff and in order, or you can go back and forth between them. It's kind of like he's lost in the woods, and I kind of wanted it to give this feeling of I don't know, multiple voices talking to you at once. So yeah, really like that page.
Next page, Jason. Another chapter page.
This was another, like, talking about the lettering again. What I was doing a lot of times was because, like, when you're new to a thing, one of the and also Mike does point out that in the actual printed book, those forest pages, Heather made the gutters black, which, at first I was like, I like the white space, but it was an intentional and I think clever decision on her point that really makes it feel like you're kind of like trapped in the woods, and it's kind of like some of the only pages with black borders. So yeah, that's a good call. But yeah, talking about the lettering here, what I was doing, I was just looking at a bunch of comics that I like, and I feel like Sandman is famous. You know, Todd Klein doing a bunch of lettering in that. And I would just be like, I have 1,000 volumes of Sandman, you know. And so that was one that I was like mining for inspiration for lettering. And in art, a lot of the ways that you learn to draw is through what's called a master copy. You know what I mean? You're just picking an art master. You are just trying to copy their work to try to understand them better. And so you would do that a lot in high school or college or whatever. And I encourage people to give it a shot. You know, if you just like drawing, and you're trying to figure out how the heck does this work, it can be really fun to just try to the best of your ability emulate someone's work. But that's what I was doing with a lot of the lettering. Was I was trying to, obviously you had to alter it a bit so that you're not literally just like stealing their letters. But Todd Klein was a big one that I kept going to. Or anytime there was like a novel that I just really loved the look of the cover, I'd be like, I would be tracing out, the Hobbit, just to see, why do I like this? Why does this look cool? How does this work for me? So it was a fun bit of exploration.
Next page, Jason.
I like this.
More tones.
Yeah, Anderson brings up a bit about the ending of the New World. The final few pages of the New World, like every now and then you like try something new with art, and it just alters everything you want to do moving forward, because you just land on something and you go like, oh shoot, this feels fresh to me, and this feels invigorating. And I remember finishing. It was a horrible time in my life, but I cranked out those final pages all like faster than I've ever cranked out any pages in my life, because I just like had to move on. But it really was I think following those pages and then following my work after that, going directly into Silver Surfer Black, it really kind of like set a new direction for me when I wrapped up that book. I see some other stuff on here.
Next page, Jason.
Marcus, I have not seen the work of Brendan Monroe, but I will look it up. No, I don't know. I don't know their work. Christopher Lopez asks about splitting work on Strange Adventures, which was, what a cool split those two. Both of those guys are amazing. Honestly, it's one of those things where I don't want to sound like I'm, stuck on two, but it's like it would have to be James Heron or Ian, because it's like I feel like with a project like that, you want styles that can be complementary, but you also want to know that you like working with that person, and I think I would just really enjoy working. If I had to split a book, I think that I could really trust them to bring the heat, to inspire me to do the same. But there's a bunch of people that I would actually, in Doctor Strange in issue 2, I collaborated with the amazing Jensen Eckwall, and she's not usually a comic book artist. She does do comics, but she more focuses on illustration professionally. But that little collaboration between the two of us, I want to do something like that again in the future. So if you haven't ever seen Jensen's work, look it up. She is awesome.
Next page, Jason. And whoa, here we go. This is
Um,
some craziness here. And again, 19 by 24 wall power, folks.
yeah, that one's a big one.
This is crazy.
Do you and me and Ian help each other out all the time? Not like literally like hands on the page, you know. I'm not gonna like walk over and be like draw like this. But yeah, it's pretty amazing just to have that extra voice. You know, like a lot of times we'll be like feeling indecisive on literally like tiny things. Like literally just this week, I had made like a 10% difference in the color of these mountains that I was coloring. And like we sat there together and like flicked back and forth between between the different color of the mountains, and we're like, should we go darker? Should we go lighter? So yeah, we help each other out with that type of stuff. I'm glad that there's a bunch of people who know Jensen's work. Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, this page, I knew that this was kind of going to be the only like straight up like it's not the only one. This is one of the few kind of just straight up fight scenes in the book, and I understand that that's people like that, and so I really wanted to. I always like setting parameters on stuff. I think that's how you make an interesting fight scene, and as Oliver in Oliver's write up definitely points out, it's like, you know, the thing in this sequence, there's a lot of rules going on, but you know, it's this the name of the chapter double bladed axe. You know, it's this axe that gets blown up into the air, and it's like there's all this magic and all this unfamiliarity going around, but we all know what happens when you throw something in the air. So that one touch of time and reality of going like, I know how that works. You know what I mean? I might not know how wizards work or, you know, magical blood knights, you know what I mean? But to set that time frame on the situation was kind of like the fun parameter of this, amongst other things. But that was, you know, there's also thematic significance there. But again, you know, I gotta leave some mystery. Come on now.
Next page, Jason. And follow it up with another incredible double page splash.
A few of these, how many microns did those pages take? I don't think they took very many, because yeah, most of this is brush. Like on this page, for example, I think the only thing I was taking a micron to was maybe I don't know, maybe those ground squares. No, I probably did those. Oh, the hammer was probably micron, but that's getting into the weeds. What are some other ones? How long did it take to write all of issue? It's hard to put. I feel like I never stopped writing. I would just be thinking about this shit all the time. I basically have, yeah, it's maybe this is how everyone has their first book happen. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So weirdly, I think I have this whole book memorized. I could just recite it to you. But that probably won't last long. But definitely all the little poetry segments and whatnot were me walking around New York late at night, sobbing. You ever hang out with Paul Pope? Yeah, Paul is awesome. I learn a lot from him every time we hang out. He's that man just fucking knows art. It's pretty incredible. He's like an encyclopedia, and just a you know, he's got that like rock star vibe to him from afar. So you're kind of like, oh, what's he gonna be like? But he's in my experience has always been very, very kind and gracious and smart, you know. So yeah, cool guy.
Next page, Jason. Down to the home stretch here. Final 3 pages, Strad.
Final 3 pages. Dang. How long does a page like this take to draw on ink? My Lord. Whole lot of time. with this first issue, uh, I worked on this first issue for 8 months. So too long? Maybe. I don't think so. Yeah. So at this point, like, kind of, we didn't. I've worked with the editor that I was working with on this, Darren. He was the editor on Surfer as well, so we know each other quite well at this point, and we got a good working relationship. He's a good guy. So we knew that this was going to take me a really long time. So we didn't actually set the deadlines on this book, basically, until I had finished issue 1, maybe finished issue 2 as well, or at least got into issue 2. So with this one, I definitely had the mindset of, like, I'm going to draw until it's done. You know what I mean? I didn't really set parameters on certain things. You know what I mean? If I needed a week on a page, I just took a week on a page. You know. What thoughts between each city design? Oh yeah, that's a good one. I definitely wanted each city. You know, everything in this book is, for one, like, color coded, whether it's the magic that people are using, the color of the sun. You know, there's a lot of very intentional use of symbols. If you're into Carl Jung, I was digging into some of that stuff and being like, symbols, they have power. So yeah, I wanted to be very specific about that stuff, and with the designs of the cities as well. I wanted them to feel different from each other. I wanted you to know, whether it was from the palette being used, but also just from the look of the city, you know, that they were in different places. And this one, I said I wasn't going to say some of this stuff, but regardless, it's like, it's kind of like built around the just the classical tale of the labyrinth, you know, of the Minotaur and all that stuff. So a lot of this is pulling from old artwork of you know, the tale of the Minotaur. So yeah, a lot of the comments and language and whatnot. So it's like, when you look at the title page, a double-bladed axe, and you see the city from afar, it looks kind of like one of those mazes that you would get as a kid, where you're trying to, like, make the little silver ball, like, go to the middle of the maze. And that was the concept behind the design of this town, was like, you had the central, what becomes a fighting pit, you know what I mean? But everything around it is this labyrinthine thing.
Next page, Jason.
This is one of the ones.
Here's another fight page, like, all action.
And this is one that, yeah, to have the back and forth meter of, you know, the axe continuing to come down, and every time I was very much flexing my my fighting game love here. You know what I mean? Like,
Name them.
yeah, no, I mean, I was looking here, and I was, you know, that this one's very specific, but I really love the character of Valdo from Soul Calibur, and that pose right there that Strange is doing, and I guess panel 3, that little whoosh, that's one of Valdo's moves. I just snatched it right from him. That up more. No, this one. Ooh, that one. The one where his arms up. Cha. Yeah, watch out when Valdo's coming at you like that. So yeah, just wanted to play with some of those stuff. What's up?
It's the only comic ever to be influenced by Soul Calibur and Kierkegaard. So.
yeah, you're pulling from everything. Well, that's the thing. There's God, like, for me, when I was young, Tekken 3 was like, God damn, me and my brother played that game so much. And it's like, there are just, like, clips, like the sound of punches from that game. Like, when I'm drawing, I'm just hearing Tekken in my mind. Like, and I think that one of the fun things that a lot of those games do, you know what I mean, is the effects when characters are being hit are very interesting to look at. And they're not they're not literal. You know what I mean? It's not saying like, oh, when Paul punches Law, there's actually sparks coming out. It's just meant to be a signifier to show you as the player like who's doing what. So yeah, I like a lot of times when I'm drawing action sequences, it doesn't a lot of times for me matter what is I feel like there's a lot of stuff that I did in Luther Strode that there's not literally sparks shooting out. It's just meant to be kind of like visual excitement, you know what I mean? Whereas in this is actually magic coming out and whatnot, but it works the same way. So it's got a lot of inspiration from fighting games. Who did
right.
you mean on Tekken 3? Oh my gosh. I think my original was Eddie, but I became, because I grew up taking Taekwondo. I don't know. I think it's pronounced Hwarang. The you know the kick dude, Taekwondo. So yeah, he was my boy. And basically, anytime I fire up a Tekken game, I'm probably picking him.
And here we go. Final page, last page.
Last page. Wait, where is it?
Next page, please, Jason.
Did Jason fall asleep?
Maybe I can see it.
Disappeared.
Yeah. Next page, Jason. Well, he'll get to it.
We'll get there. We'll get there. It's a good last page. Yeah. I feel like we might have missed some of the. Oh yeah, we got some Mortal Kombat love on here, of course.
Will you be doing any more conventions? You are doing Heroes, but that is the only one scheduled for 2023.
Yeah. I'll be honest with y'all. I'm not a big convention person, but I like doing them maybe once or twice a year. So definitely Heroes. That's the only one on the books so far.
Yep.
But that's not me saying that other ones, are off the table, but not sure yet.
Jason, last page, please. Next page. I think Jason might be having some issues.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, having a little problem here.
Someone asked what's next for me. Right now, I'm taking a short comics break to work on another thing that I don't think, well, whatever. Yeah, working on something else for the first half of the year. And then hopefully after that, I will begin development on whatever is to come next. I don't have anything set in stone yet, but as I mentioned earlier, in my heart, I would like to do a creator-owned thing next. So keep your eyes peeled, people.
And here we are. Strange has been captured. He's got the that face cage on, a lot like Mad Max and Fury Road, I guess, but tried.
Well, it's also this is a horrible little piece of history, but fascinating. That I was pulling from this back in ye olden times. They had these terrible things called Scold's Bridle, and just look them up. They would basically use it as punishment. A lot of times, gosh, this is a dark topic, but yeah, they would use it as like punishment for women, and they would put it on their like wives and shit if they wanted to, like, I don't know, be awful and controlling and whatnot. So yeah, Google and read up about Scold's Bridles. They're fucked up.
So Republicans, in other words.
Jesus. Yeah. It's interesting.
All right. That's the art show. We went through the entire Doctor Strange False Sunrise #1, which was an oversized issue, 50% bigger than your average comic.
Mm-hmm.
And wow.
We did it, y'all.
Yeah, we made it under 2 hours, which is what I was shooting for. So thank you, Trad. But before we send you on your way, I wanted to show everyone this cool thing, which is Doctor Strange Falls Sunrise #1, first printing. Only this has an original Trad sketch. He does the corner
Ooh.
box art in paint directly on the cover. It's signed by Trad. You can see it's signed right here. And we're going to be giving this away. And typically, how we do giveaways, Trad, on our show is we have people guess things or we do a random draw. In this case, I didn't say ahead of time what the criteria was going to be or the methodology,
Mhm.
except to you and Jason, which was I'm going to give this to the person who either asked my favorite question or made a favorite comment. And I said, Trad, would you do the honors? And you said, well, I'm going to like all the questions. I don't want to,
That is true.
yeah, I don't want to be discriminating. So okay, fine, then I'll do it. So I'll be the good guy to one person and hope everyone else will forgive me. but here you go. This special sketch Doctor Strange #1 issue. I'm going to give to the person who referenced what is a 30-year-old movie and is rather obscure, and a lot of people haven't seen it. But it's What Dreams May Come by New Zealand director Vincent Ward, who I thought was a real comer. He was supposed to be the original director on Alien 3. I don't know what's happened to him in the years since, but had a lot of promise. And so this one goes to Stuart Henderson, who referenced What Dreams May Come by Vincent Ward in the chat.
Go.
Congratulations.
Also, I saw in the chat, quick aside, did I see this correctly? Is that Rico Renzi? Is that the Rico Renzi?
Rico Renzi is
Good to hear
is-
from you. I hope I see you at Heroes, Rico.
all right. But for anyone who didn't get this, I've got another announcement. We have a little stack of these that Trad did that we will be including in the drop of the art because there are only like 30 pieces of art. They are going to not be cheap, but this is something that's kind of fun and affordable for fans to have a chance at, and we can also participate in the the historic Tradmore Doctor Strange Falls Sunrise #1 art drop. So here you go.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, everybody. I'm sorry I didn't get to every little bit on here, but I'll read through it afterwards and beat myself up about it. You know what I mean? It'll be good.
So yeah, I'll also say, Stuart is in the UK, and he actually set an alarm. It's 3 a.m. his time. He woke up to participate.
Dang.
So that didn't play any part in awarding him the prize. But look, the guy was committed.
Hell yeah.
So are we able to do a random draw? Because I do have something something else Trad related I'd like to give away. It is our Felix Comic Art wireless charger signed by Trad.
Wow.
And this will just give away to anyone who was in the chat. I believe the StreamYard has a function where they can do a random draw. If you're able to do that for us, Jason,
Random.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
My son made me stay up to watch this for him. Oh my gosh. I hope we did your son justice. I hope he loves it.
Okay. So I guess you guys need to type in a word. So if you hung into the end, you have an extra chance to win. Just type in the word trad, TRADD. Everyone type in the word trad, and I think Jason's program will search the word and then pick someone who's going to win.
Dang.
Trad is the word.
I see some trads on there.
Trads are whoa.
Rico's still on here, so he got to hear me say hi. What's up?
Wow, look at all these people who hung into the end.
I know, what the heck? Thanks, y'all. Oh no. Bobby jumping with the traded. How dare you? Drat! My God.
Sharon said her son made her take notes for him.
What? That's
Sharon,
awesome.
This is going to be available to watch on Rewind, so your son can watch it himself, but what an awesome mom you are.
That is amazing. And also, I don't know how old your son is, but I apologize if I said too many F words.
I bet she transcribed each and every one.
Yeah, just really wearing it out.
Well, don't draw yet, Jason, because people are still typing in Strat. My goodness.
Dang, it's going. I'm trying to see. I recognize some of these other names from back when I was on dang social media. I feel like I'd know some of y'all if I like saw your like internet picture.
I think I've seen some names who didn't speak up earlier too, or kind of lurking, but everyone loves a free prize. So
Dang, I love hearing that, Sharon. Thank you again. And like I said, I hope your son's able to watch and enjoy this. That's so cool that you stayed up and did that for him. That's awesome.
okay, Jason, I think we're good to go.
Is there any artwork you sold that you would like to see again in person? Oh, sorry. I don't want to ruin the joy of this.
Winner, Will Knapp. Congratulations, Will Knapp.
Nap.
Will Knapp, please,
Yeah.
please write me, send me an email, felixcomicart@comcast.net, and you need to include your shipping address. I know where to send this, but congratulations, Will Knapp. But guess what? I didn't just have one. I got two. We have two chargers. Let's get another winner. Look at all these people.
Oh, dang. We're getting a few.
We gotta. Let's give him another chance to win, Jason.
Winning's it just feels good, doesn't it? What if he wins again?
He gets two.
Dang.
Eric Hernandez.
Eric.
Right. And I think that's it. The question did pop up. When is this art drop going to be? Sign up for our newsletter at felixcomicart.com. Announcement will be going out shortly. All I can say to you right now is be ready, because it's going to happen soon. If I tell you that the newsletter will most likely go out tomorrow, that should give you an idea when it's going to happen. It's going to be this week, so everyone be ready. Grab your issue, read it again. You can watch this video again, fast forward, check out all the scans, and best of luck to you guys. We had our last Silver Surfer Black Drop was actually 2 issues worth, and we did that at San Diego Felix Con, our very first, our inaugural San Diego Felix Con in 2020. And I showed, one of the collectors sent me a snapshot of his setup. He had multiple screens. He had, like he had the pages laid out like in the order he was going to try for them. And look, he did get a page. Does that work? I don't know, but I think the more prepared you are, the better. So again, I wish everyone luck. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Trad, for doing this with us. Thank you for, first and foremost, creating just kick-ass, awesome comics.
Thank you.
And thanks for giving collectors a chance at a piece of this monumental creative achievement. So
well, thank you. Well, if I have a second, thank you, everybody, for real. This is I don't do this type of thing often, and you make me wonder why I don't do it more, because you're all very kind. So thank you. Ryan, your comment about Venom 2 cover, love that. That's amazing, and I'm happy to have room on your wall. Someone else asked about a ghostwriter, or about pages that I wish that I still had. There's a page from Ghostwriter that I want to see again that I can't remember is good or not, but that's on my mind. Love y'all. Hope to see you at a show or in the world.
Okay, Jason, I think we're done. Thank you, Jason, for producing, and we'll see you guys again soon.
Yeah, see ya. Thank you.